Today, I'm going to unveil who New York City's Batman is. It might come as a disappointment that he is a fraud. Konrad Bicher, NYC's own Batman, written by Konrad Bicher. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention he self-proclaimed that he was Batman. Turns out, for New York landlords, he was just the bane of their existence. Konrad Bicher is an American businessman, real estate mogul, and New York-based millionaire. Konrad formulated Nomad Enterprise in 2013 and ventured into the Airbnb rental market with the vision to revolutionize the industry. He revolutionized Airbnb like I revolutionized YouTube. What makes these bios so fun to read is knowing that the kid wrote it. Over the years, he has secured over $12 million through Airbnb properties and looks to expand into new markets and capitalize upon booming trends, Austin, Texas, and Nashville, Tennessee being a few of the new domains. Can we just call it cities? Domains sound so pretentious, like you'd hear it in a pitch deck in Silicon Valley. He also said secured over $12 million, which is a fancy way of saying he was leasing property. He didn't own anything. Currently has his eyes on the RV park and camping industry and strives to take it to a new level by marketing RV parks to millennials. I think millennials are a little tired of being told they can't afford anything. Let's come up with an idea to remind them they can't afford a house. Instead of daydreaming about one day owning a house, how about owning an RV? Konrad is currently building his hotel chain, Konrad Hotel and Resorts. He is presently building his second resort in Bali, Indonesia, a project expected to complete in 2023. Look, today's subject is a real estate mogul in the making. We got hotels, 8 figures in real estate, and someone who is going to revolutionize RV parks. Only one issue: he was allegedly defrauding landlords and wasn't paying his rent. Back in March, the New York Post released an article titled "Wolf of Airbnb Accused of Running Illegal Rental at a Posh NYC Pad." In addition to being NYC's own Batman, Konrad was also the Wolf of Airbnb. At this point, anyone self-titling themselves the Wolf of anything is probably a red flag. With as popular as this term has gotten, we're only probably a couple of months away from one of your friends naming themselves the Wolf of Buffalo Wild Wings. Asked why he calls himself the Wolf of Airbnb, Bicher responded in a text to the outlet, "The Wolf of Airbnb, it means someone who is hungry and ruthless enough to get on top of the financial ladder. They compare the ferocity to that of a wolf, because wolves are territorial, vicious, and show no mercy when provoked." These quotes sound good on posters in your dorm room, but anyone who adheres to this ethos is 100% the type of person to screw someone else over in order to make a buck. The landlords are suing Frey and Bicher for $1.5 million plus at least $10,000 in legal fees. Time to find out if our little Airbnb kingpin is a wolf or a sheep in the courtroom. Konrad didn't own his properties, which means he was not a property owner. I just closed on this house last week, but buying property seems to be getting more unaffordable by the week. However, there is another way to be a landowner that you may not know about. With this certificate, I can now be referred to as Lord Spencer Cornelia because of the Scottish custom where landowners are referred to as lairds or lords, or ladies in English. I wanted to partner up with Established Titles for this video because their mission is to provide a fun and novel way to preserve the natural woodlands of Scotland, as well as support global reforestation efforts. I now officially have a 1 square foot plot of land in Scotland, and you can too. They plant a tree with every order with their global charity partners, One Tree Planted and Trees for the Future. The first 200 people purchasing a title pack using my link will effectively be next to my plot within a few minutes of walking distance. You could officially include the title Lord or Lady on your credit card, plane tickets, or dating profiles. It makes a great last minute gift. Title packs gives you at least 1 square foot of dedicated land with a unique plot number on a private estate in Edelston, Scotland, and an official certificate with a crest. Established Titles is actually running a massive Black Friday sale right now. Plus, if you use the code Spencer, you get an additional 10% off. Go to establishedtitles.com/Spencer to get your gifts now and help support the channel. Back to the video. An Airbnb spokesperson confirmed that Bicher is no longer on the platform. He owns nothing except pictures taken on a private jet, which has me worried if he's going to be able to afford his legal bills and pay what is owed. Konrad did what is called Airbnb arbitrage, where you rent an apartment or a house from a landlord at the market rental rate, then place the property on Airbnb and keep the spread. In New York, where monthly rent is the equivalent of a private jet flight from Vegas to LA, this may not seem possible, but Airbnb rates are such that guys like Konrad can make a couple grand per unit. As shown on NYSCEF, there are currently approximately 20 summary proceedings against Konrad based upon his failure to pay rent and or vacate different apartments rented at approximately the same time. I think we found another fake millionaire who couldn't pay rent, or in Konrad's case, chose not to. This little Ferrari rider collected income and didn't pay his rent. Imagine how profitable his Airbnb arbitrage model would be if you remove paying rent from the balance sheet. That's basically what he allegedly did. The tenant owes to the plaintiff the sum set forth in the rent ledger, which totals $48,000 as rent through January 31, 2021 for use of the property. The tenant has also failed to pay to the landlord the sums of $67,200. Another property he failed to pay $26,000. Another property, $36,400. This property, $53,750. This property, $65,800. In total, estimates have Konrad is owing around $1 million in rent. He made around $1.2 million, which was all net profit because he never paid rent. Real estate is great if you get to collect rent and have no expenses. Konrad's Airbnb business is NY Approved Rentals LLC, and he was found to be receiving PPP funds. I'm going to let you guess how much he received. Under $100,000? Over $100,000? Over $500,000? What do you think? He claimed to have filed because he couldn't afford rent because of Rona. The total amount he received was $142,000 for this single LLC. The Department of Justice alleges he obtained over $565,000 total in loan proceeds from multiple LLCs. He didn't pay rent while collecting over $1 million from Airbnb, claimed he struggled to pay rent, and then essentially stole over $500,000 from the government program. In connection with the PPP application, Bicher submitted tax documents which were purportedly filed with the Internal Revenue Service. These documents were falsified in that the entity seeking PPP loans had not actually filed the purported tax returns with the IRS, and Bicher has not otherwise reported the purported income to the IRS. To make the story even better, Konrad created a fake accountant from the state of Florida in order to prepare a fake tax return on the spot so he could qualify for the PPP loan. Haley Frey was another defendant in one of the lawsuits. Building management requested that defendant Frey cease and desist from her illegal short-term rentals. Defendant's response was succinct, and it came in an email dated March 4, 2022. Can we work out a settle agreement to pay me to leave? Otherwise, I'll keep the unit for years and litigate. That statement gives a pretty good idea of the type of person they were dealing with. It says Haley Frey signed a lease for Unit 43B starting May 19, 2019, but a few months later in August, she added Konrad as an occupant on the apartment and that the pair started running illegal short-term rentals out of it. It's entirely possible that defendant Frey doesn't exist. Here's why. One tactic employed by Airbnb arbitrageurs is to pay someone random a small fee in order to use their information on the lease. My guess is Konrad used someone else's info and face to claim to be the lessee. In fact, Frey hasn't even been in the 42nd Street building since the July 2019 move-in date the suit claims. A person going to the apartment claimed to be Frey, despite the concierge noticing that they didn't look like the photo that was on file for the supposed resident, the lawsuit claims. By using someone else's info, it makes these operations easier to shut down and move on if caught. They sign fake leases, typically using other people's names so that there's no real trail tying them to the scheme. Multiple strangers have been given keys to the building by defendants and are free, unscreened, and unfettered to roam throughout. How many of you all would love to have a neighbor in your apartment complex turn their unit into an Airbnb? Probably not many. What made it worse is Konrad placed the units on another site too. Upon investigation, the landlord found that defendant Konrad Bicher was advertising the premises for per-hour rentals on Pure Space. The advertisement offers the premises for rental at $97 per hour with a 3-hour minimum. Konrad was amazing at optimizing revenue for this business. He didn't pay rent, so there was only income and no expenses, and he let people book the apartment in the few hours between when the previous Airbnb guest left and the next one arrived. This paragraph in the lawsuit explains why this scheme doesn't get caught right away. A man with the luggage showed up and was unsure of the name of the supposed tenant of the unit. A housekeeper appeared who was the same person who previously received keys from Konrad to take the guest up to the unit. The reason these housekeepers are on site is because Airbnb arbitrage operators like Konrad will put the wrong unit number on Airbnb on purpose so that it makes it incredibly difficult for Airbnb to shut down the listing. Konrad had a housekeeper who would meet the guest and take them to the proper unit without the guest ever knowing the difference. If you visit the press portion of his pretentious website, you'll read that he claims to help tenants fight against the evil slumlords of New York City. What's ironic is slumlords are the ideal owners of the units used in Airbnb arbitrage because I don't know of any landlords who would knowingly allow their tenant to convert the unit into a mini hotel business and profit. Bicher, 31 of Hialeah, Florida, is charged with 2 counts of wire fraud and 1 count of aggravated identity theft. The 2 counts of wire fraud each carry a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. The charge for aggravated identity theft carries an additional mandatory consecutive 2-year sentence. If you like stories about frauds in the real estate industry, check out this video on screen right now. Thanks for watching.